What happens? How do we open our eyes in the morning and go, oh boy. Instead of good morning, God, we're good God, it's morning. What happens to us? Gravity. Who knows? But anyway, we need to remind ourselves to be grateful, to be grateful. Years ago, I came across a statement from the Course in Miracles that said, infinite patience creates immediate results. Infinite patience creates immediate results. Now, one of those immediate results, when we're infinitely patient, is peace. Peace. That's an immediate result of being infinitely patient. And a lot of people are not patient, right? We all get impatient at times, I'm sure, or have before today. You get impatient. And when you're impatient, you're not comfortable in the moment, are you? You're not peaceful, you're not joyful, you're not happy, you're impatient. We're rushing. We got to get somewhere. You know, we got to get to our good somewhere. It's not here, it's somewhere else. And we can get impatient. I remember many years ago, standing in a bank right down on the corner, actually, a bank that used to be there. And this was when there were lines in banks. I don't see those lines too often anymore. I don't go into a bank very often anymore either. But I was standing in the line in the bank just before lunch hour, and the line was moving along pretty well. And then all of a sudden, it sort of slowed down, and I noticed the lunch crowd came into the bank, and it started to really, we were just standing there waiting, and I looked back at the line, and I could see everybody looking, you know, at the teller and at the customer, and, you know, like, what's holding this up? Why isn't it moving forward? Almost everybody in the line was doing the same thing. You know, like that's really going to change things, right? It's really going to help. It's like the guy who was at a stoplight and his car cut off, and he was trying to turn his car back on, make the car work, and everybody behind him was honking the horn. So he gets out of his car, walks back to the car behind him, and he says, hey, would you do me a favor, help me out? I'm trying to start my car, and it won't start, and I was wondering if you'd mind going up and trying to start it for me, and I'll stay back here and honk the horn for you. You know, what good is it? It's like, good point, right? What good is all the impatience? If we're waiting, we're waiting. That line's going to move when it moves. I like to see people when they're waiting for something. And how many times are you in lines waiting for something? Whether it's a subway line, a bus line, a grocery store line, or some other line. What's our attitude? Are we impatient? Is there not enough in this moment? Because I think that's one of the causes of our impatience, is we want to get somewhere where our good is. You know, where something out here is going to make me happy, whether it's a TV show or whatever, I don't know what it could be. But we're in a hurry to get somewhere. And what does that mean? It means there's not enough in this moment, doesn't it? There's not enough in this moment. Well, it may be, we may be late, but for something, or we're rushing. I always find it's helpful to get there a lot, to allow enough time to get somewhere. Have you ever noticed that? When you leave plenty of time to get somewhere, you don't have to rush so much. You don't have to feel stressed out. But people are addicted to stress. That's right. People are addicted to stress. They're addicted to the adrenaline rush. Adrenaline is addictive. Did you know that? It's a strong drug. And people are addicted to being in a hurry and rushing around. I read Gay Hendricks said that relationships will often provoke arguments and in a relationship because there's an adrenaline rush in the argument. People are bored. They push each other's buttons so they can get an adrenaline rush. Same is true with rushing, hurrying. There's an adrenaline rush, and I think people are addicted to it. Some people think they can get anywhere in 10 minutes. I'll be there in 10 minutes. I'll be down in 10 minutes. I'll get back to you in 10 minutes, That's not the way it works a lot of times. Allowing plenty of time to get somewhere. And I love seeing people, when there's a line, they pull out something, their phone. I mean, now we can carry a whole, these smartphones. Didn't have them back then. And you can read a book while you're in line. You can take some deep breaths while you're in line. You can meditate while you're in line. You can pray while you're in line. You can answer, text messages while you're in line. So, again, the point is, we have a choice. We have a choice. We can be more full, more joyful, more peaceful in the moment and take advantage of waiting times and make use of them rather than being impatient in a hurry so much. That's one way to practice patience, I think, is to, instead of looking out there, the late Eric Butterworth talked about ODing. Are you ODing or IDing? If you're ODing, you're outer directed. Outer directed. Something out there is going to make me whole. Something out there is going to make me happy. Something out there is going to give me pleasure. Something out there is going to make me peaceful. We're ODing, outer directed, instead of IDing, inner directed. Knowing our identity as a spiritual being, which is what? God living itself as us. And as the masters have told us, there is a constant flow of joy and peace and contentment and fulfillment and love inside of us all the time, and we just aren't in tune with it because we are ODing. And that's what we've been conditioned to believe and to do. So we're constantly rushing around, and then because we think we're just human beings and mortal, we're running around trying to get everything in that we can possibly get in, and before we kick the bucket. So we're in a hurry. It's later than you think, right? It's the old saying, later than you think. Got to get around and get it all in while you can. Get what's mine while I'm here. And people are stressed out. They're running around. They're just stressed out, in a hurry all the time. So maybe take a deep breath, slow down a little bit, allow more time to get places, make the most of those waiting times, and take a deep breath and start to tune into the amazingly wonderful, what Karen Drucker was singing about, that's in the moment, right? Life that's happening right now. And tuning into that. Being patient. Infinite patience leads to peace. And ancient philosophers have told us, without peace of mind, you can't be happy. That we all want peace of mind. But we forget that, don't we? Because we're ODing. People are ODing. They're looking, it's got to be something out there that I've got to have in order to be content, fulfilled, and happy. And so we're rushing around. Got to get that right partner. We got to get that whatever it is. And I'm saying, let's learn more and more how to live in the moment and learn more and more how to be peaceful and content and enjoy the journey. And the more we can do that, the more we're going to awaken to our potential. So, infinite patience. I want to share a few more ideas. One, developing patience with yourself. Developing patience with others. And developing patience with your circumstances. of your life. Does that sound good?
Yes, it does.
Developing patience with yourself. With yourself. Have you ever felt, and those, all of you who are watching this service, listening or watching, you're committed to growing. You want to grow. You want to transform. You want to experience more fulfillment and joy, and you want to be more generous and kind and loving and joyful in your life. That's something you're listening to the call inside of yourself, aren't you? You know there's more inside of you to release, and you want that. Do you ever find yourself being anxious or fearful or envious or frustrated or angry? And then on top of that, you throw in a layer of, I shouldn't feel this way. I don't want to feel like this. What happened to infinite patience? Right? How many of you ever feel that way? Or you go to a service like this, and then you go out into the world and someone cuts in front of you or does something on the subway, and there goes all that spirituality right out the window. Huh? If only the Reverend can see me now. It happens, doesn't it? It happens. I have a friend, she said one day she was reading the Daily Word. I treat my husband with love and respect. And within an hour, they got in an argument. This stuff works. You have to be patient with yourself. We need to be patient. We got to hurry up and be patient with ourselves. We got to be patient with ourselves because this is a journey. It's a journey. And if you pile a layer of self-rejection and self-criticism on top of what you're already feeling, we're missing the point, aren't we? If spirit is joy and peace and contentment and fulfillment and all that, and we're feeling anxious, and on top of the anxiousness, we're criticizing ourselves, are we in tune with spirit? Not really. Right? So what I'm saying is to be gentler with ourselves, to be kinder with self. Somebody was telling me a story about the Dalai Lama. Someone asked him a question, and they asked him about, I'm very critical of myself. What can I do, Your Holiness, to overcome this self-criticism? And the Dalai Lama, as he often does, he referred to his translator. The translator translated the question, and then they were dialoguing back and forth, him and the translator. And he said to the person, I don't understand your question. Can you say it again? And then they're going back and forth. And the Dalai Lama, so then finally the Dalai Lama realizes, you're talking badly to yourself. He said, don't do that. Don't do that. Dalai Lama didn't even understand it. I guess he doesn't have all that going on. So we've got to be patient with ourselves in this journey. We got to have the long-term perspective on this journey, ladies and gentlemen. Can I get a little esoteric for you for a moment? Okay, the masters tell us, the great spiritual teachers tell us, and you don't have to believe this. It's not a requirement to be a metaphysician or to be in unity thinking. Charles Fillmore believed it, but you don't have to. That we have lived thousands of lifetimes to get to the point where we are. That I'm getting a little woo-woo, and I say that so you know I know that I'm getting woo-woo. Some of you is not woo-woo at all. We've been living thousands of lifetimes to get to the point where we're even interested in listening to a message like this. I mean, have you watched the news lately? Have you read the paper lately? Oh my goodness. It's taken us, we've been ODing for thousands of lifetimes, playing all these different roles, looking for fulfillment and happiness and only in outer directed ways. We were a shoemaker, and then we had a big family, and we had this and that, and we thought that would do it, and then we wanted to be a senator or whatever, and we've been doing this stuff over and over and over, and finally, we're on the path of IDing, knowing our identity, waking up to truth. So what does that mean? That means we got to have the long-term view and recognize that if I feel anxious or fearful or angry or frustrated or impatient, whatever it might be, that my journey isn't to go, I shouldn't feel that way. I don't want to feel that way, and try to somehow get out of it, which you can't. It goes with you. You notice that? We can say, I'm not feeling angry, I'm not feeling angry, I'm a spiritual being, damn it. No. I'm not feeling angry. Yes, you are. Yes, you are feeling angry. Acknowledge it. Be present to it. And then you can shift your consciousness however you can. But that's your journey. It's not avoiding how you're feeling. It's recognizing it. And knowing you're the one that's right. You as a spiritual being are recognizing it. It's not you, it's in there. And that's the journey. And one day, all that scuba, as St. Paul called it, all that stuff that's in there, it frees up. More and more and more, it frees up. There's less of it. And you find yourself more joyful, happier, more free, more clarity, more wisdom, greater judgment unfolding in time. But it's got to have a long-term view. You got to be patient with yourself. We can't go from where we are to the mountaintop like that. This lady took a meditation course from Swami Kriyananda, who was a great teacher, writer, author, speaker. He was a friend of mine too. And he said a lady came to him, took a meditation course, and went away and came back 2 months later. And she said, I've been meditating 2 months. I don't know why I'm not enlightened yet. You're not enlightened because you don't know what in the world you're talking about. Got to be patient with yourself. You keep doing the spiritual work, and you don't keep looking back going, well, is anything happening? Why aren't I there yet? No, you just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Jesus said, he who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is not fit for the kingdom of heaven. You put your hand to the plow, and you just keep plowing and doing the work, and eventually, wow, look what we grew. Being patient with ourselves. It's like, something Shakespeare said. How poor are they that have not patience? What wound did ever heal but by degree? And what flower did ever blossom but by degree? And that's what we're doing, unfolding by degree. And then being patient with others. Being patient with others. Why? Because others are growing and unfolding at their own pace as well, right? How many people do you know listen to something you told them they should do, ought to do, would be good for them to do? How many of you, how effective has that been for you? Hey, why don't you blah, 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 blah. And how many people actually go, oh, thank you for telling me that. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to change my thinking, and I'm going to be positive, and I'm going to, how many people actually do that? People only, as we've been told, as you can read in psychology books, people will only change when they want to change. And oftentimes, it's when they're so sick and tired of being sick and tired that now they're ready to do something about it. And nobody can do that for them. A lot of people have found a great deal of freedom in this idea that you don't have to change another person. You don't have to convince another person. You don't have to, change them in some way. You can trust Spirit's activity inside of them, no matter what it looks like. Emily Cady, in her book, How I Use Truth, which I've recommended to a lot of people who are worried about their relatives, they're worried about daughters or sons or grandchildren or spouses or partners or whoever, where she talks about lifting up the Christ within that person, meaning the God. Christ means God, it means Spirit. It's not Jesus. Jesus wasn't the son of Mr. and Mrs. Christ. Christ is the divinity that Jesus expressed and knew. So she talked about lifting up the Spirit, the divinity in your loved one, and trusting that that is doing its work in your loved one, and you don't have to worry about them. In fact, worry is an energy that doesn't help them. But rather, she has a great affirmation I've used. You can change the wording on it to suit you. But whenever I have a thought of concern about someone, I say this. I say the Holy Spirit lives within you. He cares for you and is working in you to do that which He would have you do and is manifesting Himself through you now. And you can change the words. But the point is, you're lifting up the God within that person, the wholeness within that person, the Spirit within that person. And that's going to do far more than any kind of argumentation. Here, let me give you a book. Here, let me recommend a program. You know what you should be doing? Let me tell you how, more than any of that is acknowledging the Spirit within that person that is always whole, always complete. Emily Cady says, even when that person is going down and drug addiction or alcoholism or whatever it is in the darkness of addiction of some kind, just like the seed in the dark earth is growing. It's growing. Trust that when that loved one is going down and having troubles, that the Spirit is working in them even though you don't see the results yet. Can you see how freeing that is? Because after all, that person is God's child first. God's child. Oh, it's my son. Yes, it's your son, but it's God's child first. As that great poet said, that the children are the children of life. They come through you, not to you. So acknowledging their wholeness. Jesus said, if I be lifted up, there's a verse in the New Testament, if I be lifted up, I will draw all men unto me. Well, metaphysically, that means if you lift up the Christ, the Spirit within another human being, they will be drawn to that presence. And I've seen it happen in my life. I've seen it in loved ones. I've seen it in friends where they were lost and they were in the wilderness and they were in the wandering. They were the prodigal sons and daughters, and there was a shift and they woke up. That doesn't mean you don't offer support. That doesn't mean there aren't interventions, but it's done out of your guidance, not out of your fear. It's done from a place of, I know the reality of you, you're a spiritual being, and God is in charge of your life. And it's coming from a place of centeredness, not of fear. And that can make a huge difference, not only for you, but for that person. Having patience with the growth of loved ones, trusting their activity. But again, we limit ourselves to this lifetime. I don't know why she's doing the way she's doing. Her life is, in shambles and blah, blah. She's on a spiritual journey. She's got her own journey she's on. She's got her own lesson she's on. There's no timeline on this. If she spends her whole lifetime doing that mishigash, all right, so what? It's one of many lifetimes. Help her wake up by knowing the truth for her. Imagine what kind of impact that would have on loved ones when you're not afraid for them. You know you're a spiritual being, honey, and I trust the activity of God working in you, rather than I'm afraid, oh, well, nah, all that negative energy. Now they're getting, they're like, look at you like, I don't know what it is, Bob. I kind of like how she was looking at me, I kind of like the energy I felt around Aunt Nancy or whoever it is, because there was a different consciousness held for that person. Being patient with other people. And then being patient with our circumstances. Circumstances. All right, let's say you're in line and there's a holdup. Okay, be patient with it. Look for the good in it. Be grateful. Find something good in the moment. This week I went to the Virgin Islands. I know it was rough, difficult thing to have to do. Go snorkeling and look at the beautiful views. And I did the promotional video earlier in the week for today's service. I did from the Virgin Islands. If you can watch the video and see how pretty it was there. And it was awful being up in a nice place, looking out over the water and the mountains. I don't know why I'm back here so quickly. Anyway, on the way to the Virgin Islands, I was going to catch an E-train to go to JFK Airport. And I carried this bag, which I had some food and stuff in it I was bringing with me, and carried it down 4 flights of steps at the E-train. Why didn't you take the elevator? Well, there was no elevator. So I carried it all the way down. I had to be at the airport at 9:25. The plane was leaving at 9:25, needed to be there at 7:25. So here I am going to catch the A train at like 6:30, or E train. And I wait 10 minutes, there's nothing. Then they come on the speaker. They're being worked on the tracks right now. There's a delay in the E train. They don't tell you how long is the delay or whatever. So I grab my suitcase, carry it back up 4 flights of steps. Get in, and while I'm walking up the steps, I call the lift. While I'm walking up the steps, I think to myself, see if you ever have this thought, wonder why this is happening like this. You ever wonder about that stuff? Why is this happening right now? I'm getting some good exercise, but. So I get in the lift, and it's this young man from Tibet driving the car. Now, how many people have you met from Tibet? I haven't. I don't know if I met somebody from Tibet, but he was selling crystals or something at some little shop. I get in the car and a young man from Tibet. He drives a lift from 4 o'clock in the morning till around noon, and then he goes to nursing classes for several hours because he's learning to be a nurse. And then he drives in the early evening, and then he goes home and he studies till about 11 p.m. or midnight, goes to bed and gets up at 4 a.m. and starts the whole day over again. And he wants to be a nurse. And he's been in New York for 5 years, and he's been in school for 3. And he sends money back to his family back in Tibet to help them out. And he was telling me his story, and I couldn't help. I had the biggest smile under my mask listening to this young man and watching his enthusiasm about being in New York and about living for his dream and helping his family and doing everything he's doing. And I felt so blessed to be in that car. And I thought, if I hadn't been running a little bit late from home in the first place, it took me a little longer to get ready than I expected, and if I hadn't hauled that stuff down these flights of stairs, and if there hadn't been a delay on the tracks, I wouldn't have been in that car with that guy. Someone could say, oh, well, you're just making all that stuff up. You got lucky, you know, it was happened to be in the car, and, you know, you can call it whatever you want to. You're imagining stuff. But you know how many times that's happened in my life, stuff like that? Now I see your head's shaking. You're like, yep, I know. It's happened to me many times too. Who's to say that delay, the challenge in your life, that circumstance that's going on in your life, who's to say what the blessing might be out of that thing? We don't know. We don't know. We don't see the huge, big picture. And many times, things have happened in my life like that, where consciously I didn't know what the heck was going on, but something was going on. And it's mind-boggling how smart the universe is. It's mind-boggling how intelligent the universe is. And if we could just be more patient, trusting that, hey, I know it's the same old challenges back in my life again, whether it's the relationship or the finances or the work challenges or whatever it might be, health challenges. If we could just trust that whatever it is in my life right now is part of my journey, and there's something I can learn through this experience. Every experience can contribute to my growth spiritually. And if I can just be patient along the way and trusting, I think it can go a whole lot better. And it does. Because everyone here is learning different stuff. You know, be patient with yourself. Be patient with others. Be patient with circumstances that don't seem to be going the way you think. Be patient with your prayer life. Your prayer life. I've talked to people like, my dad was dying and I prayed for him and he still died, so I don't believe in God. I don't believe in prayer. My own dad told me that. I was praying, blessing some food, we were having dinner, and he said to me, I don't believe in prayer. Why not, Dad? Because when I was 12, my mother was dying, and I prayed that she would live, and she died anyway. That's a very narrow understanding of prayer, though. Prayer is not trying to get God to do stuff for us, like an Easter bunny or Santa Claus, right? I love the Sanskrit. Prayer is to behold oneself as wondrously made. Prayer helps us attune ourselves with the flow of spirit so that we can trust and be patient that things are unfolding in our life the way they need to unfold. That things are unfolding exactly as they need to unfold. And that takes faith, and that gives us patience. I believe that everything that happens in our life is really to help us learn how to be peaceful, joyful, present in the moment, learn to enjoy the journey, and to wake up to ourselves spiritually. No man or woman's ever going to do that for us. No job, no amount of money, no car, no remodeled apartment, no retirement cottage by the sea. Nothing is ever going to give us what we really, really, really want, which is the results of infinite patience, which we said was peace. Peace. So let us wake up to that infinite presence that gives us peace. And it takes work, it takes effort, it takes focus, but we can do it. We can do it. I'm going to close with this story from Alan Cohen. Alan Cohen wrote The Dragon Doesn't Live Here Anymore and other neat books. And he was in a McDonald's one day, and he went in to have his cup of coffee and to sip it in peace. And he was in there, and there were kids running around, and there was all kinds of noise and stuff happening around him. And he was aggravated. He was impatient. And all of a sudden, he heard a voice say, "What if all this were perfect?" And he looked at the kids making all this noise and running around, and he thought, yeah, what if all this was perfect? And then he relaxed, started to enjoy his coffee, and he started to enjoy the kids and the environment around him. And he found peace. And that's what we're talking about. Infinite patience with yourself, with others, with your circumstances, with your prayers breeds peace. Let's get still for a moment. And let us remember together that I am in tune with the infinite right now. And that as I move through my life, I move through my life with a sense of gratitude, as we sang earlier today. Even when things don't look like they're going our way, even when we're facing roadblocks, to affirm and know, I am grateful. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful for the growth that's happening in me, no matter what occurs. And I wake up to the truth that sets me free. Thank you, Father, Mother, God, for your presence of peace, your presence of joy. And so it is. Amen. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for coming in. And those of you online, thank you for being with us. We want to thank our musicians today. Thank you all for sharing your music with us. Lumazone from Alexander and Sissel. Alexander's from Florida and Sissel's from Denmark. And Karen Drucker from California. Thank you for sharing your music with us. And we hope that you go forth and live with a greater sense of patience and peace with yourself and with life. The world sure needs us to do that. God bless you. Let us join together in affirming the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Amen. Namaste.